And this next part isn't really specific to classic reports, but it's just kind of a new thing that's come in with Apex 19.2. And there is a PL/SQL API for Apex regions. And basically what this does is this actually returns a context back to us. And this will allow us to be able to use other APIs or to pass this context to other APIs so that they know kind of where to go get data and how to get information. So this is kind of a lot like, how the faceted search, is likely implemented. It gets a context to a report, so it gets at the underlying query, and it's going to add and manipulate that underlying, query in some way to kind of align with what the faceted search region, how the faceted search region has been configured. What does this look like? Well, here I have the open query context function, and this is in the Apex region PL/SQL package. And basically what this does is this lets you pick a page and a region and a potentially a particular component ID. This component ID is helpful for interactive reports and any region that has potentially multiple renderings or multiple data sets that you could potentially pick from. So this component ID allows you to be able to filter that down a little bit more. And actually you can see it says here for interactive reports and interactive grids, this is the saved report ID. And for jet charts, this would be the series that you'd like to retrieve. Okay. All right, so if you want to read more information about that, but know that it returns a context type provided by the Apex exec package. So you're noticing that Apex is starting to normalize these different interactions using this context, which I think is fantastic. So we should be able to pass around these contexts to get information and do other things. Okay, what does this look like though? So here you can see that I am displaying this a record here. It's the king record. And notice that I've also down below, I have an API call. And this API call, just writing it out as JSON data. You can write it out however you see fit. There's really no right or wrong way to do it. But the example that Apex provides uses Apex JSON, and I thought that was easy enough to just kind of leverage here. What exactly does the code look like that does this? Well, basically what I do is that I get the region ID for a particular region that I'm interested in. And then here it is, Apex region, open query context. For the current page that I'm on, for the region that I just looked up, get me a context. And then finally, I'm going to go ahead and pass that context along to the Apex JSON package, and I'm going to write that context out. Finally, I'm going to go ahead and get the output and then spit that out to the screen. Okay, let me go ahead and change the data that's being visible here. I'm just going to completely get rid of that where clause, so it should show everything. Save and run. And now what should happen is that when this refreshes, we should see that we get all of the data, and also notice that we get the same data kind of in the API call, but kind of returned in a JSON format. So this was one of the things that, there has been an API, a PL/SQL API for interactive reports, but now we have a PL/SQL API for all regions to get their underlying data, so that you could use them in other other programmatic ways. Here's just kind of a little bit of sample code to get you started to kind of get that context for a current component. One thing that I always like to add here is when fetching the region ID, I always like to define a static ID for the region which I'm going to fetch that information about. What does that mean? Well, if I quick edit this classic report, we can see that if we scroll down to advanced, we can see that there's a static ID called API report. Another kind of, just to kind of show you something interesting, this is a PL SQL code dynamic content region, but I did something which I thought was kind of fun. I actually just queried the region source from the Apex application metadata view for the API call, and then I just print out that source. Okay, so I'm actually just using Apex, rather than typing things multiple times, I'm actually just using the Apex metadata to present something back out to the screen. So if I put a little comment here, that's like actually editing the, oh wait, no, not here, the API call. If I actually change something here, I include a little comment, hey there, save and run, it should, edit how exactly the, the API call works, but it should also, display that comment here. Yeah,